Salute and welcome to Wild Country Daily Entertainment. This article is from Los Angeles Magazine. They say the Florida woman that was acquitted in her toddler's death, which is Casey Anthony, well, she's back out in the spotlight again. But this time, doesn't have nothing to do with the child. It has something to do with ICE and JD Vance and negative comments in latest Substack commentary. So they go on to say that the Florida woman acquitted in her toddler's death continues to refer to herself as a legal advocate. They say, now focusing on immigration. They say, prompting immediate backlash. How does a woman like this always end up in the spotlight? You know how? Because they don't mind their business. You know how? Because they think they need to draw people's attention to themselves all the time. And you don't have to. I mean, maybe she likes the spotlight. Maybe she likes the fame. Or people talking about her. Maybe she loves that. Who knows? But anyhow, they go on to say Casey Anthony, 39. Wow, she's still young. I thought she was older than that. I remember that. That was a couple years. That was years and years and years ago when she did that, supposedly to her daughter. But she was acquitted, so that was good. But anyhow, she has largely maintained a low profile, staying out of the public eye since her highly publicized 2011 acquittal in the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. They say the Kaylee Anthony trial was one of the most closely followed and divisive criminal cases in American media. They say she was charged with first-degree murder, exactly, aggravated manslaughter, aggravated child abuse, and 4 counts of giving false information to law enforcement. Like, we don't need to know all that, but thank you. Most of us by now, know who Casey Anthony is. The only ones that might not know her is the ones that are well, I'm 40-some, so I could be almost a grandfather here soon. So maybe our grandkids wouldn't know about it if we had any grandkids. But by now, everybody knows who she is. So, but anyhow, thank you for writing that in here. Shout out to you, Los Angeles magazines. Shout out to you. But anyhow, they go on to say after the 6 weeks televised trial, a jury found her not guilty of the 3 most serious charges, but convicted her of lying to investigators. They say including falsely claiming her daughter had been kidnapped by a nanny. They say she was sentenced to 4 years on the misdemeanor counts, but was released shortly afterward due to time already served. They say even after her 2011 acquittal, many continue to believe Casey Anthony was responsible for her daughter's death. They say a view shaped by troubling evidence and by her own behavior during the investigation. They say polling at the time found that roughly 2/3 of the public believed she was guilty, according to CBS News. They go on to say Anthony failed to report 2-year-old Kylie missing. Okay, what does this have to do with the ICE and with JD Vance? Excuse me. While her story resurfaced to tell her story in the 2020 Peacock. Okay, now we go. Now we get to the real headlines. The soup and the meat and potatoes. Okay, that was just the peas and the carrots. Now we get into the potatoes, meat and potatoes. Okay, so bear with me. Sorry about that, guys. Bear with me. Now, in 2026, they say she's making headlines as she continues to emerge as a self proclaimed legal advocate and researcher on TikTok and Substack. Whatever Substack is, it must be another social media. They say even post positioning herself as someone who is there fighting for justice for Kylie. They say it should be noted that there is no public record of Anthony attending law school. They say being registered as a paralegal or law clerk or earning a J.D. They say Anthony first emerged on social media in March 2025 with a TikTok video filmed from her car, an image that drew immediate backlash. They say, given prosecutors once alleged her daughter's body had been transported. Okay, we don't need to know that. We already know that. In the trunk of the car. They say in the clip she described herself as someone who had been in the legal field since 2011. They say she said she wanted to reintroduce herself to the public. They say the reaction was overwhelmingly negative, prompting the comments on the post to be shut off. They say, I don't know what that was about, but anyhow, they say not only does this clown have a Substack account, but who the hell's even subscribing? Look at her. Look at her. Casey Anthony calls Minneapolis ICE shooting a crime. Rips JD Vance. Case Anthony dubbed America's most hated mom. They go on to say if Casey Anthony is on your side of an argument, you may want to rethink your opinion. They say child killer said what? Oh man, why do you have to put that in there? Well, it doesn't say anything about JD Vance. How that's weird. But anyhow, yeah. Oh, right there. Okay, I had to scroll down for more. They say Anthony, however, has not let that discourage her, more recently speaking out on her Substack, weighing in on ICE and police brutality, even penning an open letter to Vice President JD Vance. They say an excerpt read from those of us in the legal world, you should try consulting with someone other than the corrupt Attorney General of the United States to get your information about how our legal system and our Constitution are applied to all citizens. They say, yourself included. We know that you are all complicit. They say, in taking this out of the hands of the state of Minneapolis where the crime was committed. They go on to say the response to the tot mom speaking out on public issues were once again not positive. I guess this is the letter that she wrote. It says, Dear Vice President JD Vance, there is no such thing as a federal law enforcement. She goes on to say, having immunity because it is convenient for you and this administration. She goes on to say this applies to your Gestapo agents and ICE. Well, she's correct on that. She goes on to say the crime needs to be investigated. All crimes do, not just this one, but all of them. So why is she stepping in with this one? Why hasn't she resurfaced and stepped in with others? Or maybe she hasn't. I just haven't seen her in the spotlight. But you think they would have made that loud and clear also? So why are they making this such a big deal? Okay, so they go on to. She goes on to write. This crime needs to be investigated as all other officers involved crimes need to be investigated in our country. She goes on to write, release the reports, release the body camera footage, if there is any. She writes, hold this man accountable as you would if the woman he shot in cold blood would have fired upon him or anyone. They go on to say Anthony took her Substack on Thursday to take a shot at those who decide to spar in the comment section on posts addressing current events in the media. They go on to say there are a lot of dangerous events taking place in the country that are being publicized across social media platforms and the national media on a minute by minute basis. You got that right. The internet is full of bullshitters. The social media world, yeah, you got a lot of bullshitters, a lot of haters, and a lot of fake talkers and tough talkers too. So yeah, I agree with that. Um, they go on to say if your only contribution to the conversation is to leave negative comments on the post, they say that is made by someone who is actively protesting against what is happening or speaking out against what is happening. They say you are part of the problem, not the solution. They say if you are engaging in unnecessary verbal sparring with people in the comment section of anyone else's post, you are also part of the problem. Yeah, but sometimes it's fun to troll, though. You know, a lot of people think that. Well, sometimes it's fun to just put a couple of nasty comments in here because trolling ain't that bad. Yeah, okay. Okay, it can get pretty nasty. Mark my words on that. But anyhow, they go on to say we all have the same First Amendment rights. Of course we do. Which is one of the main things I have. So why aren't we standing up then and using our First Amendment rights? Why aren't we using all of our amendments and spanking these politicians and saying, get the heck out? Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we speaking these judges and stuff like that? We need to start using our amendments and kick these people out of office. But no. Why should we do that? Just sit there and eat potato chips, drink your soda, and watch the clown show fall apart, right? That's better. But anyhow, they say if I didn't remind people to be mindful of the things that they are saying, especially when encouraging someone to inflict harm upon themselves or threatening the safety of someone else, they say. They say there is enough violence before us. Our democracy is in jeopardy. I agree with that. Our civil rights are in jeopardy. I agree with that. Doesn't that mean something? Yes, it freaking does. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the link to this article in my description. So go to my description and look for the look for the link to this article. Sorry, excuse me, it's 3:03 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday morning. So Friday morning. Sorry. But now it's Saturday. So bear with me. Go to my description and get the link if you want to look over this article again. also, make sure you hit that thumbs up and share this video, please. And thank you all for sticking by me as I continue to grow and continue to get better. Thank you, and peace out.